So many hours on this on the show, and the evidence is so demonstrable. You have these FBI photos of, and we play them often, these photos directly from the federal government of Epstein's safe, inside of Epstein's safe, they crack. Inside of those safes are boxes of hard drives with evidence tape on them. The FBI special agent in charge says, we didn't put the evidence tape on there. Epstein put the evidence tape on there. You have all these CDs marked nudes. You can see it in the federal government's photos. This isn't just the photos they released, right? Do you see bags of passports, bags of diamonds? We haven't seen any of that, John. We've seen zero of that evidence. They raid Little St. James. You can watch this unlicensed drone footage of them hauling off all these boxes, right? They have boxes and boxes and boxes.
I saw it.
We've never seen a single document from any of that. Where the hell is it? We keep asking. We ask senators. We ask members of Congress. We ask members of the administration. We ask Pam Bondi to her face. And it's like, no one knows, right? It's like, no one knows. And the best answer we've ever gotten is that, like, they've had a decade to cover this up. And that's what, like, I'm trying to like establish that, like, Cash and Dan Bongino are not magicians, right? They can't make crimes that happened before they got in charge go away. Or re-bring up. They've already been on saying that Comey hid stuff in private rooms, like that he was hiding material. You probably saw in the interviews. He was hiding material from them in private rooms and locked rooms. They were storing stuff away. They have to go digging for this stuff.
This is like the Americans trying to invade Okinawa and Kwajalein, when the Japanese have had years to dig their tunnel systems and get all the way into the ground.
That's exactly
and we're lobbing in bombs from our ships for 2 months, trying to soften them up before we send in the ground team. I mean, I got to figure that's what it looks like to Dan and Cash when they're walking into the FBI building.
I'm not trying to blackbill, man. I'm a very optimistic guy. I know you're a very optimistic guy. Your music is optimistic. It's uplifting.
And I know those two guys just like you do. And they're patriots, and they are vicious, and they hate people that hurt kids. So
I want it to happen.
I want it to happen too.
And I don't want to blackpill. There's just human limitations when you're fighting evil. And the question that James Comer had on when he was on the program that I thought was a very pragmatic question, a very realistic question, is he said, let's say that you had a box of smoldering evidence that would bring down the whole federal government, because we all know that Epstein was a Fed. We all know that Epstein was protected. We all know that Epstein was working with foreign intel, that he was working with our intel agencies, that he was protected by intel. And it would bring down the whole system, because then suddenly America would know that their federal government protects predators, right? That the federal government was permissive of a pederast ring, right? The world's largest pederast ring. And that we were perhaps funding it. No one ever knows who Epstein got his money. So you have that box of smoldering evidence, right? Like, there it is, right there. Like, if you're the deep state, are you going to take the chance letting that box be found by Dan Bongino?
No.
You know, is like that's what Comer said. You know, that's what James Comer said, who's like the world's master at digging up, you know, like old files and stuff from the Biden, stuff the government didn't want.
Yep.
And I was like, you know, it makes kind of a lot of sense. And he's like, listen, that box has been sitting there, whatever that box is, you know, they've had a decade to cover that up.
That's like leaving a ribeye steak in the garage floor and then letting Dan Bongino off his leach, and he hadn't eaten in a week.
He does look like a bulldog.
You think he's gonna?
He literally looks like a bulldog.
Is he gonna eat the steak? You better get rid of the steak.
He has bulldog physiognomy.
Yeah.
The Dan Bongino bulldog, and he's getting more pronounced as he gets older. He looks more like a bulldog.
But have you noticed the visage on their faces since they've had these jobs? They look different.
Bro,
those two men look different.
That's right. That's a good point.
They look different. They look, you know, can you imagine having to comb through thousands of pieces of content with adults abusing kids, and you have to look at that? I know from working with the agents at DHS, they have to look at that stuff, and it causes PTS. I mean, it's not dissimilar from someone who's been in combat. Like it affects their mind to a really deep degree, and it is a mental sacrifice for anyone. I wouldn't want to comb through that ever. I wouldn't, but somebody has to, and that's the job they're taking on right now. I mean, you got to think about this kind of stuff.
So, last question on Diddy, but I want to bring up Suge Knight, who's also an executive. I don't know him, but maybe you've met him. I don't know. He's also
Thank God I've never met him. That's why I'm still here.
Okay, that's right. He's killed some people. He's in prison for killing. I think he's in prison for killing people or something like that.
That's a mean dude.
So he's got nothing. You know, he's got nothing to lose, right? So he's already in jail, and he keeps going on and talking about how Diddy was a Fed. and how he was the Epstein of the music industry. And I wanted to get your take on that, given the fact that you've been at the Grammys, you've won these awards, you've been at these parties. Again, I'm obviously you're one of the most Christian, upstanding, greatest fathers ever, and you've sacrificed so much for your family, your country, but you've seen this up close. Most people haven't seen this universe of celebrity up close, and you have. And I wanted to bring up what Suge said about Diddy.
Yeah.
And get your take on it. Do you think that Diddy was a Fed? Do you think that this was an intel operation? And do you think that's why the government's going really, really cutesy time on him?
Well, I mean, there aren't many things more powerful than music, the music industry. I mean, think about the hundreds of millions of people daily that are consuming content by these artists. So if you're wanting to control a narrative, try to control culture, try to drive the country in one way or the other, having music in your back pocket is a powerful thing to have. Yeah. Just like Hollywood, right? How many movies have the CIA directed? I know that sounds like a crazy statement, but I mean,
definitely the new Snow White, definitely the new live action.
For a long
Snow
time,
White.
Government agencies have been involved in entertainment because they know that drives the thought process of Americans. So no, it wouldn't shock me at all if he was working for an agency. Wouldn't shock me at all. Can't prove it. Hope someday we can see the truth of that matter. Maybe it'll happen soon. He's in court right now.
Yeah, we had a number of guests come on being like, man, they are throwing this. The feds are covering it all up. It's a RICO case. So they haven't presented any RICO evidence. All they've done is present evidence that like he's a degenerate douchebag, right? Which we all know that, right? He's a real sicko. You know, he's a real sick freak. And that's it. But that's not what he's on trial for, actually. You know,
right.
He's on trial for these big crimes. And they haven't presented any of that evidence. Witnesses have gone missing. And you know what they do have? All of his tapes, all of his hard drives, all of his cameras. They raided all of his mansions. They took everything.
Can I ask you a math question real quick?
Sure.
So, because you were able to rattle off how many subscribers you have and how big your business is getting, by the way. Congratulations. This guy's on fire right now, thanks to y'all. No, but I want to ask you a math. I'm proud of you. I want to ask you a math.
Sounded like a douchebag.
A math question.
Me? Jeez.
Here's a math question. Benny, in your opinion,
I love you all. I love you all. I was just saying, like, I'm just so proud of like the chat and the stream and the audience that we're building here is nothing but hearts out to this. Can we do a heart to the chat?
Like Taylor Swift style. There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. From him to you and me. Okay, so here's the math question. Benny, what percentage of American politicians would still be in office if every one of them who was guilty of the things that are in this content were all of a sudden handcuffed and walked out of Washington, D.C.? What percentage of politicians would be left at that point, do you think? How big do you think it is?
Okay, I have one brush with the rapper industry. One brush with truly like rap, like the people who know the rap industry. All right, and I'll tell you about it. We went to Atlanta, and it's a piece of content. Maybe you've seen it, chat. I don't know, but we went to Atlanta, to the worst neighborhood in Atlanta, the deadliest neighborhood in Atlanta, and handed out MAGA hats. And we handed out these MAGA hats because we wanted to prove that Fannie Willis is completely full of shit. That actually people love Trump. Black people love Trump.
Right.
That Fannie Willis's like constituents love Trump. Dude,
right.
We had 150 MAGA hats. They were gone in 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
No good.
Loving it, running up to us, grabbing those hats. The point is that we had to hire security, right? We have nice cameras. We had security with us. It's not a place you go, you know. It's a place you go with big time security. So we got these real brawlers, these guys who do the security for all these rap parties in Atlanta. The real hotbed for rappers. Mm-hmm. Those guys said, I was asking them in the car about Diddy, and they said, "You want to know the real truth? The real truth is that we try and look the other way, but if they wanted to get what Diddy has, they just talk to the security guards because we all saw it, all of it. Mm-hmm. We've done Diddy parties." We've done these parties for these rappers. The baby oil stuff. This is how they got date rape drug into people.
Really?
So the baby oil is the way to get actually the.
So it had something in it that would knock them out.
That's right. Yep. This is how they're like. That's what the baby oil obsession was. Why aren't they testing the baby oil? That's the cover up right there. That they're like not telling you about that. And then they said that they saw politicians. I said, have you ever seen politicians? Politicians all the time. Lo and behold, some of Diddy's bodyguards have started to talk.
Yeah.
Not to the court. The feds have never
I saw
called
one
them.
talk to Piers Morgan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of his guards have talked and have been like, no, man, you don't understand. Like there were A-listers, the A-list of the A-list, politicians on here, record executives, they're like, these people were involved.
You know what the Bible says about it? It says everything done in secret will eventually be brought to light.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Better live your values.
Everything.
Yep.
So we can get upset and get wound up that we ain't seen it yet. And I'm aggravated, like, come on, let's go.
Right.
But he says everything done in secret will eventually be brought to light.
Yes.
So you got to lean on that.
Yeah, you'll be judged before Jesus one day, right? So it's like, either way, you're gonna get cooked.
Right.
You better live an upstanding life, especially if you're in this business, right? Because, like, it's so brutal to see these people come out to see the fraudulence, frankly, in like some of these politicians. A great member of Congress, Tim Burchett. I know you know him.
I know Tim.
He's just a couple hours.
He's a hillbilly.
Proper
with a
hillbilly.
Carhartt jacket.
Yeah, dude. He got damn near kicked off his committees for just coming on the show one day, hopped up on, I don't know, Monster Energy drink, skateboards onto the stream, and is just like, all these politicians, Republicans and Democrats, they go to a party and then they wind up naked in a bed with a hooker. And they wake up and they say, there's popcorn everywhere. There's all the pretty girls and they're naked.
How did I miss this?
Oh, man, it went thermonuclear. It went nuclear. And everyone, like the Republicans,
not
the Democrats.
Not naked. Naked. That's
Yeah.
N-E-K-K-I-D.
You can help me with the pronunciation. Yes, you're a proper redneck too.
Now I wind up
You can help
naked.
me with the pronunciation. And he
my
went viral for that.
Oh.
And he's like, that's how it works in DC. It's like, that's how it works. It's just a big blackmail operation. And all these down home family, people, that's how they control them. And now you're watching you're watching what happens with, like, when Trump's trying to pass legislation, and some of these it's so weird how some of these Republicans just, Tom Tillis is a good example with, like, Ed Martin for DC District Attorney. He why would you block this? You see these behaviors that make no sense, and you just assume that these guys have messed up.
Yeah, because their constituents absolutely hate what it is they're doing, and they do it anyway. It's not good for re-election.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't call him Tom Tillis. I call him Thom Tillis. And I wrote a song about Thom Tillis that I'll show you later. Okay. Thom, you were wrong. I plan on going to North Carolina and playing that song at some rallies for whoever primaries.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't like him. I don't like Cornyn. I don't like Mitch. I don't like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them need to be primaried in 26. How in the world can Lindsey Graham still be a senator in a deep red South Carolina with the kind of nonsense he goes out here and does? How is that even possible?
Yeah.
South Carolina, what are you doing? Is there anybody in South Carolina that's like straight ahead patriot that'll run against Lindsey Graham? Please.